Hey guys, Peter here to tell you about the latest from Feuerschwanz, Warriors, out May 3rd on Napalm Records. The album has 12 tracks, 43 minutes in length, and this is the band's 13th full-length studio record. They are a German folk metal band, a band that's celebrating their 20th anniversary. What an incredible milestone, and what a way of celebrating it with their first full-length album completely in English. Now, the record is made up of 12 songs. 10 of them are remakes of previous release tracks over the last couple of records, now in English, and also 2 brand new songs, one being a cover, the other one being an actual brand new track. So there's a lot to digest and there's a lot to process when you approach this record. The first thing that I thought was that the album was going to be very individualistic. Each song was going to have its own unique characteristics. Like I said, a little bit of a compilation, not necessarily a full-length album. That's not the case. They created a track listing and they picked songs that really add value to one another in the direction that they offer to the listener from first all the way to last. So more than a compilation, this is a full-length record. It has that essence, it gives that experience, and then it offers that atmosphere. So from a design standpoint, the record works extremely well from beginning all the way to the end. Then when you look at the songs, and you start to see that they invited some of their friends to contribute on these tracks, you're adding value to the overall experience, you're adding value to what the record represents. You have Chris Harms of Lord of the Lost and Memento Mori, you have Order and Ogan in Dominion and the Unholy Grail, the brand new song that this album offers. You have Francisco of Wind Rose and Wardwarf, very appropriate, and you have Patty Gurdy and Song of Ice and Fire. These additions add spice, they add value, they add creativity to the way the songs are presented. Now you're not just presenting songs that are remakes that come across now in a different language that try perhaps to appeal to a different audience. Now you're also bringing different artists in that obviously going to change the DNA of these songs, they're going to change the dynamics of these songs and going to create something almost completely new while rooted in something that you have experienced before. Very intelligent approach, and like I said, I think it adds incredible value to what this celebration, to what this record is all about. Now coming in, I wasn't sure about this album. I wasn't sure if I was going to enjoy these songs because they are in English. Now one would think that, well, that would make it better for you because that's your language. Yes and no. Yes, that now I can perhaps understand the songs a little bit more. Maybe I can understand some of the topics of the songs a little bit more, even though the translations are not direct translations. That would be impossible. The songs would be very difficult to make sense out of if you translate everything word by word. But I'm a fan of bands that perform in their original language, specifically when we were talking about folk bands. I think it adds a different level of atmosphere. It brings a different emotion into the forefront, and it feels more natural all around. And I think you get a lot more out of the songs in that format than if you do them in English. So I wasn't sure if this was going to work for me, if these songs were going to feel like second fiddle to what the original tracks are all about. So I was very hesitant coming in. I must say, maybe because they are in English, but they sound so good. They're so hooky, they're so catchy, the vocals are phenomenal. You have all these additional musicians on the record that add quality to those songs. And because the lyrics are in English, because they're singing in English, suddenly I feel like I'm listening to a movie score. I feel like I'm listening to songs that are soundtracks of different movies. And that automatically gives incredible value and incredible volume and incredible size to the way these songs are being presented. Because while the vocals are changing, while the lyrics are changing, because now everything is in English, musically the tracks are very close to what the originals are all about. So there's not a lot to change there. There's not a lot of movement there. What you got is what you're getting. So adding this other element to it, and an element that immediately you're easily associating with movies, with cinema, makes definitely an increase, or creates an increase in size of the songs of the record. Everything feels much larger, much brighter. The English language, it also adds to that. It has that attribute of feeling really easy to the ear, which makes the songs open up a little bit. They don't feel as restrained. They don't have as much heaviness on certain tones or on certain deliveries of certain words, of certain lyrics. So all of these elements definitely help the sound, even though the sound is perhaps one of the elements that changes the least coming into this album. So I enjoyed this dynamic because it allowed the record to almost feel like a brand new album with 12 songs that I've never heard before. Even though obviously 10 of them, we've all heard them before, just with a different face to them. But listening to these tracks was really interesting because it makes you go back to the originals, and you're constantly comparing the two and try to see where the differences are, and you try to see which one wins. And I think we all win by now having the option to listen to these songs in the original format or listening to these songs now with English lyrics and being sung in English. I think this record, for what it offers, completely surpassed my expectations. Not in a million years I thought this album was perhaps going to be one of my favorite records of the year because of that compilation style, almost gimmicky to a certain extent that the album has, but it's magnificent. I love these songs, and it's going to be really hard for me to go back and listen to some of the original tracks without necessarily moving forward and listening to the English version of that same song. Specifically, three. There's three songs that stood out in my mind as some of the best that this record has to offer. I want to start off with Memento Mori, a song that features Chris Harms of Lord of the Lost. First of all, he adds a sense of darkness that the original doesn't have. You're creating a duet, you're creating a great dynamic between two different vocalists with two very different styles, and Chris, without doing too much, brings that Lord of the Lost flavor, brings that sort of underlying darkness to the track that makes the song feel completely different from the original, at least from a vocal standpoint, and even the impact that those vocals have on the overall atmosphere of the track. Because of that nature, because of that duet, because of that style, because of that darkness, this song really stood out to me immediately. Felt very different. It almost felt like a complete brand new song that they had never released before. Now, my favorite remake on this record is Circlepit of Hell. I cannot get enough of this song. I can't believe how catchy this track is. I think this is perhaps one of the few that this remake is better than the original, because some of them I still prefer the original over the remake, but this one won me over. This is such an incredible song. It has such a hooky and catchy chorus, super memorable, easy to listen to, easy to sing along. A great song that if you're performing live works really well with an audience that doesn't understand German. This track is a great blend of how you can get the most out of your audience by creating a song that still kept a lot of the original in there, but definitely has a more American feel to how that chorus comes about, to how the lyrics in that chorus really come to life. I love this track. I love that you also still have the German influence in terms of the pronunciation. There's certain words in that chorus that you could feel the German accent coming through, and believe it or not, that adds even more value to the way the song is executed. Now, a track that I also enjoyed on this record, but if I had to pick, I would still go back to the original. That is Bastard of Asgard. I think the original is incredible. The original adds this mystique to it because being in German, talking about Asgard, I don't know, there's something about that gives it a little bit more a sense of reality. Being in English, it makes the song more Hollywood-esque. It definitely creates almost a cinematic vibe to the way this track is coming across. You could totally see this song part of a movie soundtrack, and the English part of the song, singing the song in English, definitely adds that sort of experience. I like the German one better because it feels more realistic, for a lack of a better term. But I also enjoyed this one, and it was one that stood out to me because they were able to transform a song that made me believe that Asgard was a real thing when I heard the original, to a song that made me feel like I was watching a movie about Thor and Odin and Loki and all of that. So I absolutely enjoy this track. what it offered me, the change in dynamics and the change in perception in terms of what's real and what's imaginary was very profound when you look at both songs side by side, and that's why I picked this as one of my favorite tracks on this record. This is it, Feuerschwanz with Warriors, out May 3rd on Napalm Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles, on the songs, on this record, on the celebration of the band. Hit me up in the comment section, and I'll see you all at the next video. Take care, guys.